Hello and welcome to a Monster Mechanics mini episode where we're going to be talking about the problems of a super strong mouse. So to give some context to our listeners, I am going to be on, or I am currently on, an actual play masks podcast called Outstanding. I'll put a link in the description in case you want to go check it out. It's very good. All the things that I've done with it have been super fun. My character in that actual play is a super strong, nigh invulnerable mouse called Maximus Morris, aka Shield Mouse. And obviously, in a comic book setting like Masks, we pretty much ignore all physics, and him being super strong is just fine. He can do whatever he needs to do. But I've done some back of the envelope math onto some of the problems that a super strong mouse has, and we're going to talk about those right now.
So when you say super strong mouse, how strong are we talking?
I think to qualify as super strong, your floor is that you need to be able to lift a car, which I calculated out to be about 3,300 pounds or something like that. So my back of the envelope math goes off of that.
Okay.
So the obvious first problem is if you're going to lift a car, you're going to have to find a place to hold it. And I should note this character is still the size and weight of a regular mouse. He's about 11 centimeters long. Which is about 5 inches, and he's only about 45 grams. He's still tiny, is the idea. But if he was to grab a hold of a car on its frame and apply enough force to lift the car, I'm pretty sure he starts pushing his hand through the metal. I think he can, as I calculated newtons of force, it ends up being like 400 to 500 newton, or what's it called, megapascals, which is newtons per millimeter squared. And which is enough, I think, to start putting big old dents in the car frame.
So I have a question about that because
yeah, absolutely.
If you use like a car jack, I mean, the full weight of the car is resting on a relatively small, well, not necessarily the full weight, I suppose, but
it's not the full weight on a car jack, but also the size of the car jack itself is much larger than the paw of a mouse.
That is true.
And so you're spreading that out over several, probably tens of centimeters squared, which massively reduces the pressure on the metal at that point. Mm-hmm. Whereas if you reduce it to a mouse's paw, which I think is only a couple of millimeters squared, it's like pushing it through it's on balancing on the tip of a knife almost. Like it's so small.
Yeah.
And so I was using that as his basis of strength. I was also thinking about if he just put that force into pushing off of a flat surface. Mm-hmm. So you put all of the strength that it would require him to lift a car, he just does it to lift himself. And after a quick calculation, which is almost certainly wrong because I am not a physicist, and also ignoring things like at these speeds, I think air becomes less of a resistance and more like a gel. But ignoring all that, he ends up going 3,300 meters per second. No, wait, that's wrong. That's miles per hour. He ends up going.
Yeah, I don't think he's going 3 kilometers a second.
No, he's going about 3,700 miles per hour, which is about Mach 4.3. So he immediately goes supersonic. And then that is like 30% higher than the velocity of a 22 millimeter cannon shell, which is about the size he is. He's lighter than a 20 millimeter cannon shell, so he doesn't carry the same kinetic force. But I'm pretty sure that within a less than 100 meters, I'm pretty sure he's armor piercing. I think he fires himself straight through steel at that point.
Well, what kind of amuses me is that unless he's actively resisting, like when he's in the air, he's just a regular mouse.
Pretty much, yeah.
So like he could launch himself at these incredible speeds, but he's still just a mouse.
He's completely ballistic at that point. He has no control over his own trajectory or velocity while in the air. And I looked it up. The terminal velocity of a mouse is 15 meters per second, which is that's like what, 5%, less than 5% of the speed that he'd be going. So he's immediately slowing down from the moment that he takes off.
Mm-hmm. I do feel like Googling the terminal velocity of a mouse puts you on some kind of list.
You know what? There was an answer on Ask Science immediately for that one. It's because if you drop mice from like almost any height, they survive almost unharmed. Mm-hmm. Because you can like please don't do this, but you theoretically could throw a mouse out of an airplane and it would probably come through okay. Because they don't go fast enough to impart themselves with a lot of force when they hit the ground. Similarly, if you threw a mouse out of an airplane, you probably couldn't kill anybody either. Which is, I mean, this is also a problem. If he over a long enough distance, he would slow down to a very weak amount of force because it's only about 45 grams hitting a person, which is a hilarious problem. Those.
Yeah, I feel like your main issue with this is just overcoming that friction. It's a good thing your mouse is, what you said, basically invulnerable, right?
Yeah, nigh invulnerable.
At this point, he'd have to be, because otherwise he'd just squish.
Yeah. If you imparted that much kinetic energy onto a mouse, immediately I think it would be a mouse paste or mouse mist. Something.
Again, please don't do this.
Yeah, please don't do that. I don't know how you would. I mean, essentially what you'd be doing is blowing up a mouse. Like the only way to put that much energy into something like that quickly would be an explosion going off, like a gunshot. But yeah, I think if at that point his problem with being a superhero is that if he uses full strength ever, he pushes himself through people. Like he can't punch anyone. He's just going to like if he just like fired himself bodily at something, I think he'd end up going through somebody who wasn't wearing ballistic body armor at least. Like there would just be a mouse-shaped hole through their chest if he tried to punch them.
So he kind of has the Spider-Man problem, just on a greater scale.
Exactly.
Or a much smaller scale, depending on how you want to look at it.
Yeah. Much smaller scale is the problem. It's all about the small surface area that he applies all of his pressure to. So those are some of the problems with if you try to think about the physics of a super strong mouse. Logically, of course, any kind of superhero is going to have at least these kinds of problems, if not greater. But if you want to hear the very heartwarming take on this character, please go check out Outstanding. The Twitter for that one is @OutstandingPod. It's going to be released as part of the Protean City feed. And I think you'll really enjoy it. If you like APs, please go check it out.
Well, I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome. I think with that, we're going to sign off. Bye.
See you.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Monster Mechanics. You can find links and show notes at our website, monsterpod.org, or if you'd like to support us, head on over to patreon.com/monsterpod. We can be found on Twitter @monstermpod, or you can email us at monstermechanicspodcast@gmail.com. We'd love to hear your feedback. Monster Mechanics is produced and edited by Scott Paladin. This episode was hosted by Scott Paladin and Zach Jaquays. All of the ideas produced during this podcast are released under a do what the f*** you want public license.